and move on and talk about the gold financing space. Lenders like Muthoot and Manappuram Finance have seen their customer base decline over the last few quarters, as the common narrative is that customers are shifting from NBFCs to banks. We spoke with Manappuram Finance yesterday. They said the demand of NBFC customers at the lower end has come down, but there has not been a shift of customers to banks, and they are seeing new customer additions playing out. Let's take that discussion forward with George Alexander Muthoot, the Managing Director at Muthoot Finance. George, thanks a lot for joining us. Your peer Manappuram Finance told us yesterday that no, they're not losing any customers to banks, and neither is anyone from the industry. Would you concur with that view? And if that's the case, then what's the reason for this fall that we're seeing in the customer base?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that customers are not shifting from NBFCs to banks. Banks are actually getting a new set of customers. The market is widening or broadening. That is what is really happening. It's not that customers from NBFCs are shifting to banks. That said, the second point is the fall in customer base. It's not the fall in customer base has not fallen. The active customers for us would have come down a bit. That is because we had quite a lot of auctions in quarter 4 and quarter 1 of this year. That has been the reason why many of the accounts got marked away from the active accounts. That is why there is a fall in the active customer. But the customer base of the company is always about 3 to 4 times that of the existing customer base of about 52 lakhs. So we have that customer base. That customers will come back. If not today, tomorrow, next month, month after next, they will come back for their loan.
I got that point. George, sorry, good morning. But the point is, you're saying that the market is expanding and banks are getting new clients. What prevents you from getting those new clients? I mean, if the market itself is expanding.
Yeah. Banks are getting a set of new customers because they are actually offering very low rates of interest to big customers. So big customers, when they offer 6%, 7%, 8%, etc., generally some customers definitely go there. Banks have that advantage of that very low interest rate. That is why many customers are going there. Of course, they also have the advantage of this subvention which they get for agriculture loan, which they also pass on to customers. All those put together, they are able to offer very low interest rate to customers. Many of the customers take this, some of them take it as agricultural loans also at very low interest. So that is where they are getting their customers.
Mr. Muthoot, good morning, Prashant here. Mr. Nandakumar at Manappuram also told us that the reason is not switching to banks, existing customers switching to banks, and you're agreeing with that. But the second thing he said is the reason is general stress overall at the cottage level industries. I mean, lower segments. So demand for credit in that sense is not there because of various shocks over the last couple of years, COVID being the last one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree that the last 1.5 years, there was stress on a lot of customers. That is why we had to do a lot of auctions in quarter 4 and quarter 1. But now I think those things are behind us. Now I see from my sense I get from my branches all over the 5,000 branches all over the place is that local demand for funding is definitely picking up. And I'm sure that this festival season will show demand more picking up. So we should see demand picking up. As he said earlier, in the last 1.5 to 2 years, there was definitely stress in the market, stress with the customers, etc., having not getting their due share of business, etc. But now I think things have changed. That's I see a positive outlook now.
Will you have to do more to get customers in terms of teaser rates? And I saw an advertisement at home gold loans. Get a gold loan sitting at home. I mean, so would you have to do more? I mean, in terms of,
Yeah, I agree. It's not the interest rates that a customer can come to us because we may not be able to compete with the banks on rates, but it's on the service part. So as you said, maybe giving them a best of service, bring them a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute service definitely has been the forte of NBFCs and more especially for Muthoot, because we dispose a customer in 5, 10 to 15 minutes time. That's one of the strengths. Second, now, as you already said, we are also giving the option for customers to have the gold picked up from their house. So what we do is we send our own staff, or our manager, to the customer's place to pick up the gold, check it there and bring it here, and probably pay the money sitting there itself. We can pay the money to him. So our staff goes there, but this is only for customers who really want the scheme. But what we have seen is that 95 to 97% of the customers would prefer to come to the bank and hand over the gold to the branch itself. But then when they have some people, for convenience sake only, they request for a home service and we do it.
Okay. Give and take everything, even if banks are getting new customers, it just means that people are heading towards banks more than NBFCs, and perhaps that's where the trust factor lies, right? If that is the case, assuming that is the case, do you see growth slow down, especially for your own company? What kind of AUM growth would you target for the full year?
So I wouldn't agree with you that the trust of the NBFCs is lesser and the trust to banks is more. I think the trust for NBFCs like us from the customers has always been there. It's especially the smaller retail customers. Definitely the trust is there. What I said again, I repeat, is that the bigger customers, maybe the 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs and bigger loans are the ones which definitely are going to banks, because definitely for the interest differential, there is the big different interest. That is why customers are getting.
Oh,
now your second question was, in this context, what is our growth estimate, etc. I understand. So we are generally, as usual, Muthoot, myself, I am always very optimistic about gold loan business, about the loan disbursals, etc., and the strength of the NBFCs in gold loan. I'm very optimistic on that, and I'm sure some of these things are passing. It will pass away, and after a while, things will come back to normal. So we should, in the first quarter, we had a degrowth of about 2%. That is about 1,500 crores was degrowth, mainly because of auctions.
Got it.
Now Q2, you should see things stabilizing, and Q3 and Q4, you should see business going up. We expect about 10% growth by the end of the year.
No, got that point. But George, the issue here is that at the end of the day, these are business decisions, right? I mean, I may have a trust factor with a bank, but when I got a much better rate with the other bank for my home loan, I shifted, right? So in that sense, if there's lower interest rate available, customers will take that. So do you plan to reintroduce the teaser rate, or just to get some customers back?
No, I don't think we need to do the teaser rates, etc. I think we as an NBFC, our strength should be with the better service. See, it's not, I again repeat that no customers would have gone away from Muthoot and taken the loan from Muthoot and given to the bank. No, it is the newer set of customers who would have gone there. I wouldn't agree on to say that customers have shifted from an NBFC to bank. I wouldn't agree on that. But new customers have gone there. But definitely, please also understand, this is not a 5-year or 10-year or 25-year loan where the shifting happens.
Yeah.
This is just a 1-month, 2-month loan. There is nothing like shift. They close the loan in so quick time, and there is no entry load, exit load, etc. So it is nobody needs to shift a loan. Nobody does that.
Banks have always rates offered by banks would always be earlier also would have been much lower as compared to what you would offer, right?
Yes.
So the difference is competitive intensity. More and more banks coming and offering this product now. So what's happening to competitive intensity? I mean, is it still very high?
See, it is the banks who definitely had a lot of NPA. That's my feeling. It's not the industry feeling or somebody else's feeling. My personal feeling that banks had a lot of bad loans, NPA issues, etc. But gold loan sector is one where you don't have the NPA issues, you don't have the loss, etc. So, but then of course it is operationally challenging, but still. Many banks have about 60,000, 70,000 branches all over India. Every branch does a little bit of gold loan. It's a big number. So banks have given a more focus to gold loans in the last maybe 3-4 quarters. That is why they are seeing the AUM in gold loan growth. But yes, of course, banks, I'm sure, should not be doing this retail business of gold loan. I think their focus would lie elsewhere, but it's a matter of time.
So this 10% rate that you're giving us, it's much less than what you've done in the previous years, right? You're getting a bit conservative because of the challenges?
No, it's not the challenges. It is the ground reality also is that probably didn't want to give a very high expectations and not try to achieve that. So if things are better, we may be able to do 10, 12, etc. But I think 10 is something which is definitely
used to be 15% like clockwork, but now 10 for the next for the foreseeable future, 24, 25.
I think we have to wait and see. Probably next year, this time, probably we may have a better view of things, and probably things may look better at that time.
The share price has obviously been reacting to all of this, Mr. Muthoot. Any plans to kind of do something for shareholders?
We still own, the family owns about 73%. We have not sold any share in the last 10, 12 years. Since listing, we have not sold any shares in the market. So the share price in the market is actually of no impact to us because we don't sell, we don't purchase in the market. But of course, investors who have invested the shares probably, they are looking at having a higher share price. But what we can do from our side is to grow the company, make better profit, and the share market should turn positive after that when they see the business going. What we can do in this is run the company well, have high growth, and that is our.
Absolutely, that is your core strength, right? I mean, what the share market does with the stock is anyway beyond everyone's control. So I guess you can just control the business operations. Thanks a lot, sir, for joining us. And these are challenging times, but I'm sure companies like yours can overcome it. Let's slip into a quick break. On the other side, we have V.S. Parthasarthi, the Vice Chairman at All Cargo Logistics, who will join in to discuss the company.